Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today I'm going to get into Division III athletics at the college level. My guest today is Louise McCleary. She is the interim vice president for Division III at the NCAA, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sure. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Yeah, I went to Wellesley College up in Massachusetts, women's college. Had the opportunity to play 3 sports while I was there, and that was back in the mid 80s.
Great. So let's just go back in time a little before we get started. In high school, what did you think about going to college? Was it freshman year, senior year? When did it all begin for you?
Yeah, so for me, both my parents were educators. And so my father was a college professor. My mother was a high school teacher. And so education was always part of our conversation about going to college. Where should you go to college? I think both of them had different insights than maybe some other families. And so that conversation, heck, I remember it from every dinner. We talked about education and the importance and the value. And so really, I was lucky in many ways that they laid that groundwork, but they also left it open for me to say, all right, start to think about what's really important for you and what you can get out of that college education and how it may help you beyond. And so from my earliest time, I remember talking about the opportunities to go to college and what that could mean for me as I move forward with my professional career.
So now, did you get recruited for the 3 sports, or was it just the one college that you were looking at, or did you have many different schools and options?
So I will tell you, I love the game of basketball. Basketball was my sport in high school, but I'm on a good day, I'm 5'5". I'm not very quick. So no, I was not really recruited by anyone. And I will tell you, I grew up in Virginia. I had my heart set on going to William and Mary. That's where I really thought I'd go to school. It was a smaller school. That was important for me. That was one of the things I looked at. UVA was another school that many of my high school classmates went to. But for me, I wanted something that was a little bit smaller so that I could get to know the other students in a better way, so I could get to know the faculty in a different way. So I thought that's where I was going. Now, mind you, my mother she went to Wellesley College. And so it's known as a legacy if you end up going where a family member went. And at the end of the day, she really said, I think stretching yourself a little bit, going to a school that she knew would challenge me academically and also give me an opportunity to play athletically. It ended up being the absolute best decision, but I would say it was definitely more parental driven than my own personal choice at that point. But we laugh about it still today. She says, have you ever forgiven me? And it was really one of the best decisions ever for me to end up going to that institution. As I mentioned, academically, I got one of the best educations, but then athletically, I had some opportunities that I know I would not have been able to find at a larger institution.
So now you go to college. What's it like there? What were your thoughts about actually being there?
Yeah, so I was in over my head initially. Academically, there's no doubt about it. I think it's a hard transition for any student when you go from high school. Typically, you're going home. At the end of the day, you have support either from your parents or from somebody else. And college, it does it intentionally. You're on your own. And you have to live with somebody that you have no idea who they are. And just that process alone, I think, is what's so great about the college experience, especially if you have the chance to live on campus. And not everybody has that opportunity. But if you do, it forces you to say, okay, I now need to live with somebody else. And everything you can learn from that, it's priceless. I don't know how else to put it. So that first semester absolutely was challenging. The academics was challenging. Living with somebody I didn't know was difficult. but I played volleyball. I mentioned I played 3 sports. So I started right away and I got to meet a group of like-minded individuals where we could be on a team together. And not everybody gets an opportunity to play on a team, but I also found a job. So I started to create some niches on the campus outside of academics that allowed me to feel that it was now my new home. It was starting that way. Every year I grew, and by the time I became a senior, as I said, it was one of the best experiences I could have ever had, and it prepared me for life beyond college.
Great. So now you graduate. How does one go from graduating to becoming the interim vice president at the NCAA for Division III sports?
Yeah, it's a long and windy road. And I would say that for any student who is in high school, who's looking to go to college and thinking beyond, there are definitely some high school students that I meet today that they say, I know what I want to do. I did not. That's why part of the reason I went to a liberal arts institution so that I could try a little bit of everything. And I was a double major, political science, American studies. And I thought for sure I would end up going into the law, maybe doing some type of governmental work. And so I left college and I did what every graduate does. Let me find that first job. And I worked in business. And what I realized after a couple of years is it wasn't where my passion was. And again, what I tell a lot of high school students and college students is you want to have more good days than bad days with whatever job you're doing. And I know that seems pretty simple, but for me, that was not the case my first couple of years out of college. And so at that point, I realized that athletics had always played an integral part of who I was, and I wanted to give back. And so I ended up going to graduate school. I got a master's in sports administration. From there, I followed the route. I always had a goal. I wanted to be an athletics director. So I sort of worked my way through several institutions. I started as a sports information director, and then I became an assistant athletic director, then an associate. And then I was an athletics director, and I was like, I've arrived, I'm done. And then the opportunity arose at the national office. And so I was at a point in my career that I wanted another challenge. I came to Indiana. I had an opportunity to meet the other staff members here, and the opportunity to be able to serve all 450 or so Division III institutions really fit into what I wanted to do with my life, especially my professional career. And so about 9 years ago, I landed at the national office, and through a series of events, I'm currently the interim vice president, and it's just been a wonderful journey, and it is a journey, and it has fits and starts like any journey, but more good days than bad days. And so really pleased at where I am today.
Now, for the audience that really doesn't understand Division III, can you give an understanding to the parents and the students that are watching? What is the difference between a Division III, Division II, Division I type school?
That's great. So there's so many similarities, but really some of the differences I will say is that in Division III, most of our institutions are private institutions, about 80%. When you get to Division II, it's about 50%. So 50% private, 50% public. And then Division I is the exact opposite. They're 80% public. So that's a difference. And I mentioned that because typically with private institutions, they're smaller. So you're looking at maybe 1,000 students to 5,000 students versus a large public research institution may have 25 to 30,000. And so again, when I was a coach and I was always recruiting, one of the very first things I would say is, what are you looking for as a student? Do you feel okay in a classroom of 100 students, or would you rather be in a classroom of 15? There's no right or wrong answer. There's just a difference. And so think Division III, typically, but not all. We have smaller classrooms. So that means a smaller ratio of student to faculty. And one of the things that I'm pretty sure all of your high school students and parents know, in Division III, we don't offer athletic scholarships. However, what they may not know is about 80% of our students do receive some type of academic or merit assistance. And so I think there's this thought that every single Division II and Division I are on a full ride scholarship. That's not the case either. They, along with athletic scholarships, they too offer academic scholarships. And so the other thing that I'm not sure your audience may know is only about 6% of our 8 million high school student athletes go on to compete at the NCAA. And so that in many ways is in a very, it's an elite group. And so I tell students, if maybe it's not going to be athletics, there are still opportunities to grant and aid to be able to go to college, to have that experience. And maybe athletics is through a different route than versus being on the varsity team, or maybe it is being on the varsity team. Either way, you could still have that college experience possibly.
Yeah. So how about athletics? What are the differences on a Division III level, other than, of course, the scholarships and things? But what do you see as the differences and there's so many different sports at the college level, but what are the differences from a Division III to a Division I type school?
Yeah, and Anthony, I'm going to twist it a little bit. One of the similarities, because I think, many times you may hear, oh, they went down to Division II or Division III from Division I. At the end of the day, as I mentioned, the student athletes who are competing in the NCAA are competing at an elite level. And that's true for Division III as well. We are just wrapping up our baseball national championship, and it's some of the best competition you're going to see across the country. And that's true for our 28 national championships. What you will see in Division III, though, that is slightly different is we have shorter playing and practice seasons. And we do that on purpose because there's a focus in Division III, similar to the other two divisions, that yes, we want you to excel athletically and we want you to compete at the highest level, but academics are the #1 priority. And then there's this third component. What else are you involved in? Are you in an internship or an externship? Are you going to go junior year abroad? Are you going to have a job? And the majority of our students, athletes do work while they're in college. And so it's this emphasis of, yes, athletics is important, but it's just as important as your academics and sort of the other things that you're doing on campus. And that's one of our core values that wraps into that shorter playing and practice season.
Yeah. So how many different sports at a Division III level do you actually have?
Yeah, we have 28 national championships. And another thing that I think is unique to Division III, even some of our smaller institutions that maybe only have 1,000 students, most of our institutions average 17 to 18 varsity sports that they're sponsoring. So that's a priority to say we want to offer a broad opportunity for participation on our largest campuses as well as on our smallest campuses.
Now, do you find that also the coaches are also working outside of just the sport itself?
If you had asked me that question 15 years ago, I would have said absolutely. That many of the head coaches in Division III were also teaching in the physical education department, or maybe they were teaching in a business area or somewhere else on the campus. I would say today we've shifted more, that many of our head coaches, that's their job, 100%, that they are working with that team, they're recruiting, they're doing all the things that come into beyond the X's and O of a sport. So there's still many Division III campuses. I've worked at some of them where our head coaches also served an administrative role or they were teaching. And in some ways, there's value to that because they get to interact with students beyond their team. And I think even the head coaches where their primary and their sole responsibility is their team, on a Division III campus, we really say, get to know the other students, get to know the other coaches, make sure that you get to know individuals outside of the athletics department, engagement with faculty and admissions, all those areas are a priority when you're on a Division III campus.
Yeah. Now, How about recruiting? What's the differences that you find in recruiting at a Division III level compared to, of course, the Division I level?
Anthony, I haven't recruited in about 10 years, and I'm not sure there's much difference. Our head coaches, Division III, are working just as hard as Division I and Division II. Really, the goal that every head coach is, let me identify the talent that will fit best with my institution, and that will vary from campus to campus. But then, even more importantly, do I have the academic major that that student is looking for? And then what I always did when I was recruiting, and I know head coaches still do this today, what would happen if on day 2, you could no longer play your sport? Is that the right institution for you? And that's a question I think every high school student and their parents should ask. Are the academics right for me? Is the social life right for me? Are all the other opportunities I mentioned outside of sport right for me? Can I grow there? Can I learn there? Can I be challenged? Because students who pick only for their sport, if for some reason they choose to no longer play that sport, yes, you can always transfer. But if they found the home that has all the components, then I think it makes it a little bit easier as they have that journey through their college experience.
Now, do you find that there's a lot of students that go to the Clearinghouse portal and they're not sure if they want to go Division I, Division III? Do you explain to the students that they should just fill it out just in case?
So the Clearinghouse started when I actually came to the national office. So I have not been on campus. And I will tell you, transferring from an institution, sometimes it's an easy decision. I need to transfer as a student because I need to get back home. Maybe one of my parents or my guardian has fallen ill and I need to go back home. Or maybe the institution no longer has the major I'm looking for. But many times it's a really difficult decision for student athletes to decide to leave their institution. And in Division III, we have a process where student athletes for a set amount of time can actually go out and talk to other coaches, can talk to other schools to say, is it a better fit for me? And so while some of our Division III student athletes are in the portal, for the most part, they have a very open communication with their head coaches, with their compliance officers to say, things have gone well here, but it's just not right for me anymore. And it's partly because there's not an athletic scholarship tied to it. I think most of our coaches really want to make sure that their student athletes are happy, they're fulfilled, they're challenged. Yes, they want them to stay at their institution and be part of everything that they have to offer. But at the same time, if their circumstances change and they need to look to go somewhere else, I found most times our coaches are very willing to do that. They really want our student athletes to say, this is the best decision for me.
So now you also talked about monies at the college level.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Division III with no scholarships, you talked about there's merit and academic. Are there a wide variety of different ways of getting money from colleges, or is that pretty much it, is merit and academic?
They're a wide variety. And so again, if you have, for your high school students who are starting to look at colleges, on a Division III campus, we treat our student athletes and our students the exact same way in the admissions and the financial aid process. But I would say that's one of the very early conversations. You apply to an institution, you reach out to the financial aid to say, okay, what is available to me? What campus scholarships do you have? Are there any community ones I could look in? Is there any federal aid I can look into? And let's put a package together. What you want to make sure, caution always, is you don't want to have that package be full of lots of loans, because you've heard that. Students, when they graduate, then they have to pay back their loans. But can they find a balance that is good for not only that first year, but for year 2, 3, and 4? And there isn't a financial aid officer that will not work with students and their parents to say, here's a package that we can put together for you if you end up coming to our institution.
Now, you said most of the Division III are private institutions. because they're private, do they have more flexibility of monies that they can give out?
I don't know if they have more flexibility, but I think the flexibility comes with how large is their endowment, what type of scholarships. And again, if you Googled an institution, they're going to list right away what are the scholarships that are available to the incoming students and to returning students as well. And then that's a situation where a high school senior can look and go, okay, that's based on GPA. I have that GPA. I should qualify. Or maybe it's based on a particular region if it's a state institution. Okay, I'm from that county. That's something else. And so all of that is public. What it takes is research to say, all right, again, you're looking at not only the finances, but as I mentioned, is it in the right geographic area for me? Is it the right size for me? Really important, does it have the right academic major for me? And then obviously, hey, it has the sport that I have excelled at. Is there an opportunity for me to compete on that team? And that's reaching out to that head coach and asking, how many student athletes do you have on your team? What are the opportunities? And then determining yourself, all right, maybe they have a team that I would not be able to be a starter on until maybe my third year. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Or no, I have the personality. I want to be able to start right away. I want to be a difference maker. And then it's saying, okay, now I have to go back and do some more research to say, what type of institution is that? And trying to align as much of that up as possible as you start to your application process.
Now, with the pandemic and some kids in school, some kids out of school, so on and so forth, do you find that at Division III, students are doing it on their own, visiting the schools, visiting the coaches? Do you find it more happening at Division III like that compared to the school actually inviting them and coming to the school?
Yes, I'm hesitating a little bit because as I mentioned, our head coaches are recruiting like crazy also. So sending out lots of invitations to say, come and visit our campus. And when you visit our campus and you meet the current team, let's also get you in the classroom so you can sit in on a couple classes. But at the end of the day, absolutely. There are students at Division III that say, I want to go and visit the campus. Maybe that's the first opportunity to say, could I also meet with a coach? I would tell you with our teams that are competing consistently for national championships, it's probably more of an invitation. But there are others to say, all right, you're building your program, or maybe you weren't aware of me and what I've done in high school. Let's have that initial conversation to see if there's a fit on your team and an opportunity for me either to have a spot or to try out for a position.
Now, do the coaches or the athletic directors, did they come to you and try to get advice from you? How does the school work with you?
That's right. So no, our head coaches and our athletic directors, they don't need much in terms of the recruiting advice. Really, where we come into play, like the other two divisions, we're a membership organization. And so we're made up of committees. Those committees, some work with championships, others work with our rules, some work with our budgeting. And really they're making decisions and making recommendations on behalf of the entire membership. And so that's where our guidance comes in to say, if you need to get from point A to point Z, let us help you navigate through the governance process. That's my role. I have colleagues in championships. They oversee the 28 national championships I mentioned. I have colleagues that are in our academic and membership affairs. So those are all of our rules. And again, if there's going to be a rule change, it goes through one of those committees I mentioned. I don't sit down one day and say, I think we're going to have a rule change today. That's always done through the membership. And that's how we engage with athletics directors, coaches, presidents and chancellors, and most especially student athletes. Their voice is so important. We have a student athlete advisory committee at the national level. So they have the opportunity to sit in on a lot of those committee meetings and make sure to say, okay, don't forget the student athlete voice. And here's what we're thinking. That same structure is on every campus. So again, if any of your high school seniors go on and they end up being in college and they're a student athlete, they may have that opportunity to be on their campus student athlete advisory committee. So they can use their voice to say, all right, campus, are you doing things the way that the student athlete needs or thinks is in the best interest? And let's have that conversation and let's collaborate on solutions if we need to have some changes. So that student athlete voice is so important, not only at Division III, but for the entire association.
Right. So we're actually coming to the end of our show. And usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students interested in going to college for athletics, interested in going to a Division III type school? What advice do you want to give to them?
Yeah, Anthony, here's what I'll say. It's a journey, and know that. But it's a journey that I think is worthwhile. It will have starts and stops, and there'll be right turns and left turns. But I think, today having that college education helps you get ahead. And there's so much value for that professionally, but just the journey of being a college student, as I mentioned, learning to work with others, learning to communicate, challenging yourself. And the challenge may be academically, but it may be something else. There's so much value in that as you're preparing really for that first job, that first professional career. And so what I would say is, if you fall down, that's okay. Pick yourself back up. I say this all the time. All it should tell you is, I need to do this a little differently. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It just means you need to do it a little differently. And if you take that attitude, and the last thing, I'll mention it again, and you want to have more good days than bad days, it will be well worth that journey.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, so you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.